Hey. Hi. Good evening. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Yes, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Can you hear me okay? Okay. The first approval. So, my name is Bamberger. I'm an independent curator and learner based in New Haven. And today with me, Gülistan Kenanoğlu. A curator, an architect, and a friend. And we're very excited to be here. Sorry about that. A nice start, I will say. Yes, okay. I prepared some introductory notes. So Gülistan and I first met here at Residency Unlimited a few weeks ago. And immediately, as curators coming from the Middle East, working in zones of conflict and violence, we noticed we have many things in common. Including an interest in the curatorial field as an expanding field that responds to global crisis. We started naturally talking about the dilemmas and challenges we face, and you suggested opening this to the public. I admit I hesitated at first. As a curator coming from Israel during times of, I feel like I have many more questions than answers on how not to reproduce the violence that my country is doing. But what I do know is that maybe it's time for us to learn from other geographies and histories. So that's why I'm here today, to learn from you and from your practice and to think together on what architecture can teach us about curating in the aftermath of destruction. When I prepared myself for this conversation, I noticed that I'm talking to an imagined audience. One that is not only critical, but that actually hates me. And I was talking very defensively. And this is not the kind of conversation I want us to have. So I want to tell both of us, what if we speak to an audience that already loves us or that is already in solidarity with what we're trying to do? So let's take a deep breath and begin. And I want to begin by a late one. Yes, so as I wonder if we will ever be able to heal from what is currently happening in Gaza, in the world, I want to start by asking you about your vision of healing. What do you mean when you speak about healing in the context of curating and architecture?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for the really nice introduction. I think this is really important. The things that you said are really important and explain the current situation. So for that, thank you. I am very grateful. When we start to talk about healing, maybe I first need to talk a bit about myself and to then extend the concept of healing. So firstly, I am from Diyarbakır, southeast of Turkey, and I am a Kurdish person. So I just want to talk a bit about my background and experience. As Maya said, I am an architect. My bachelor is in architecture, and I am also an independent curator. So I want to talk a bit about the not so current conflict in Turkey. So after in the early 2010s, there was a Syrian war, and obviously that we have a border between Syria and Turkey, and southeast and east part of Turkey affected very heavily. So Diyarbakır was one of the cities that were affected, and during that time I was studying for my bachelor's, but of course my family was living there, and I was like traveling a lot to see the situation, to take care of my family somehow, and etc. So I think maybe it will be very nice to understand the scale of the conflict, but today we will mostly talking about aftermath of the conflict. So after this conflict, I was visiting Turkey. Yeah, sorry, since I am here, I was thinking about going back there. Anyway, I was visiting Diyarbakır, and during that time, we had a workshop with artists, curators, and practitioners coming from all around Turkey to discuss the current situation. So in this current situation, we try to understand how we can come together to discuss what is going on, and if we can ever talk about healing, the concept of healing, because I think healing is a really big word, a very, very big concept to talk about or try to heal something. So in one of the spontaneous conversation with one of my artist friend, we were talking about if it is possible to come together and try to understand if we can slowly build this, open a platform to bring people together to discuss about if healing is possible. So after that time, I was thinking maybe it is important to at least talk or discuss about the current situation and what will be after the destruction and reconstruction processes, and even create this kind of safe zone to bring people together to talk more through artistic and curatorialship practices, I will say, because our aim were not like barely talking with curators, artists, but trying to touch locals.
So how did you invite local people to join the discussion?
Of course, it was not easy, because after such conflict, it is not easy to come together, because sometimes in times of conflicts, it is hard to bring people together because it refers to a kind of political gathering. So people were not so happy to come together spontaneously. But when we were trying to do a kind of workshop, or if we want to kind of announce it as a workshop, an artistic workshop or something, people were more open to join the process. But of course, at that time, it was not so easy. And after years, we were able to connect with them.
I want to take you, I think it was 8 years after the time of the destruction that you were able to touch these things in your curatorial work. And I'm also asking about this time because I feel like now, in the time when things are happening, like I feel like the paralysis to touch things, and I have hope that like maybe there is time in the future when things are getting easier. So I was wondering about what happened when you could look back into those things and bring it into your practice.
Actually, of course, after such conflicts, it is always hard to work on either architecture, art, or curating. I just say that also people were not so willingly attending this kind of gatherings. So we were at that time, just after maybe months of the conflict, we were like barely being like practitioners and artists, curators, etc. So we were talking about this situation, but it was too much. It was staying in theoretical ground. So I think after some time,
it was easier to stay on the theoretical ground?
It was not easier, it is not about that, but I think people also were not so happy to or not willing to attend because they were maybe having this fear of some stuff, I will say, and it was not easy to bring them together. So if we don't touch to the locals, then it is being too theoretical.
Yes.
So we don't like this. If it is too theoretical, then it is starting to become on paper. It is just it is becoming a barely research paper or something like that. So after years, coming back to your question, after years, 8 or 9 years of going back to this violence and trying to understand the structure and reconstructed structure, it was a bit easier to see the aftermath as well because after years, as I say, it was not so easy to understand the situation because it is too much theoretical. And when we were trying to reach people, they were more open to interact, at least have this, we were able to have this spontaneous conversation. So I think it is, as I say, it is not easy to work on such topic after a short time. But after a time, if you take a break, I think you have this time to process the thing happened and process the knowledge gathered if you were working on the side or if you were already interviewing and etc. So it is, I think, easier to process as well. So.
Yeah. And I think it's not only time because it included like a fellowship you did in the Netherlands. Do you want to tell us about the project you did about Seoul?
Yes, I think it will be nice to talk a bit about that. And as you say, it is not only about time, but if I was not a part of this fellowship, probably I would still do some stuff, some interviews, some research, but I will not process it or I will not realize it somehow. So I want to briefly talk about my project. So this project called Expropriation and Displacement. So you are right now you are seeing an old map, aerial view of Sur. So you see how dense the area, and basically it is, of course, the city expanded and etc. But this is kind of an old town for Diyarbakir. So after the conflict, these are some other views from some bus stations, some important bus stations. So you see it has a very organic urban plan. And of course, it is too dense and the streets are quite narrow because of climate conditions and because of the vernacular architecture of Diyarbakir. So I will bring this a bit closer. So during the fellowship, at first I started to work on this individually, but after a time I collaborated with an architect and an artist to expand the research. So in this project, I was focusing on how after the conflicts happened in Diyarbakir, Sur region changed. Of course, we try to understand its political, economical, and socio-cultural effects as well. Because after the destruction of the region, as you can see in the maps, that almost half of the Sur were destroyed. So in here, maybe I will just quickly show. In here you see some new building structures. So I was trying to understand that. And during this fellowship project, it was, of course, I had an aim. It was not like a process, it was not like a outcome-based research, but it was giving me free time to do research and go make some site visits, talk to people. And of course, at that time, it was easier because it was already 8 years later. It was easier to talk with people. They were not afraid to talk. They were open to share their comments on this gentrification process. So as you can see, there is this massive destruction. So we here like before after photo. So we try to understand which part of Sur, because the destruction, part of the destructions where it happened is also strategic. And we try to understand from which part they start to destroy the area, and how the new alienated structures arise in the region.
So which kind of knowledge you could bring from the people that you could not bring from theory?
Actually, this is a good question, because I was talking about being too much theoretical, and on the other side, I want to stay in practice as well. When I say practice, of course, I'm talking about touching the locals. So one very important thing will be that I was talking, not having interviews, because I am not thinking that if I ask too many questions, people will become comfortable, but most of them were my friends and friends of friends. And we were having this spontaneous conversation while I was doing site research, site trips. And I was talking with one of my friends. He was saying that, because, first I need to say this. While I was doing this research, I was thinking this is a really bad thing. I was never thinking about other possibilities. And I was thinking that, okay, this is a barely gentrification process. It is becoming privatized, and public spaces are turning into kind of commercialized areas. And we were barely discussing on this. But while I was talking with one of my friends in Sur, he was saying that, which was very shocking for me. He was saying that, okay, this process was very bad, obviously. Nobody wants this scale of violence, and nobody wants to be forced displaced, and so on. But at the end, we are at least able to walk in the street, because they were saying that before that gentrification process, it was not so easy to walk in the streets. Of course, there is some political implications as well, but they were also thinking maybe Sur is starting to turn into a kind of ghetto, because it has this very organic street pattern and a very organic urban plan, and etc. At first, it was very shocking for me, and I just really understand that we really need to stay in connection with local people, maybe even grassroots organizations, because I think the information gathered from there is also very important and useful, I guess.
Which brings me to ask you about divine violence, because when you worked on the projects in Diyarbakir, you're a local yourself, and you've very much networked with the people, and you also have your own knowledge about the place. I want to ask you what made you to do this project about violence in Iran, and how did you connect with the local people, and what did you think about your permission to touch a different geography, which is something I'm
very curious,
very much.
Actually, first I need to start with this. Again, Turkey has this border with Iran, and when there is a conflict or a war in other countries, even in Ukraine, there are many people coming to Turkey. Maybe they are staying longer, and sometimes they are going just like US or some other countries. So Turkey has a very strategic location in that sense. So I am from Diyarbakir, but I live also in Izmir. So I had many friends coming from Iran. I met with them in Diyarbakir, also in Izmir, many of them from Izmir, because they were just like coming to probably seek for a better future or something like that, if possible. So at first I had many friends, and we were just casually, of course, talking and having this spontaneous conversation about what is going on there, because also we have some conflict in Turkey and some other conflicts and wars in neighbors countries as well. So it is important to us to understand what is going on there as well. So after talking with them, and of course I'm interested in Middle East geography of Middle East. Like I am trying to be aware of the situation, what is going on in other countries, and etc. So I was already interested in the country, and I was doing research maybe over like 3 to 4 years already because of my friends, and
when does a conversation with a friend become research?
Actually, when I was trying to turn this research process into an exhibition, because I was not aiming to do an exhibition here in New York. I just had this opportunity with Apexart Gallery, and I realized that maybe I need to turn them into an exhibition. So I realized that this conversation was a really big portion of my research. And during that time, I was already researching, but after unfortunate death of Mahsa Amini, I thought that I need to do something. And of course, when I also had this opportunity to do an exhibition at Apexart Gallery, so I thought it is a nice time to turn it into an exhibition, a kind of narration maybe, because I'm not thinking it like a exhibition that we will put our artworks or whatever and people will come and see. I was thinking we need to create a kind of narration so audiences or visitors will kind of understand what is going on there, because sometimes I also saw it, of course, during my time in New York in my exhibition, that some people are not so aware of the situation. They know something, but they are not fully aware.
Can you give us an introduction of what is going on there and what you wanted to do?
Yes, I can give a very short introduction because it is a really long it has a really long history. So basically, connecting with Divine Violence exhibition, I was trying to understand what is going on there after the revolution, because after the Iranian Islamic Revolution, many rights of women taken away. And these are the things that I realized, of course, during the research process. People are, especially women, women are starting to evacuated from public spaces. So streets are mainly male-dominated. So we try to understand what is the scale of femicide in Iran. So this exhibition is basically talking about this. And because of that, of course, there were many demonstrations going on there against patriarchy and this unveiling law and etc. So after Mahsa Amini's death, before Mahsa Amini, there were numbers of women being killed, unfortunately. But after that, after this event, I just a bit confused. After that, Jinjiyan Azadi slogan arose all around the world, and I thought
which
means women like freedom. Jinjiyan Azadi is a Kurdish slogan. I don't want to say slogan because it is more than a slogan, but it was like a very important time in the world that in almost each country, people were demonstrating against what is happening in Iran, and they were like chanting Jinjiyan Azadi. So I thought this is very important because being a Kurdish person, Jinjiyan Azadi is very important for our culture. And of course, it is always important to do something, do something if you are care to change, I guess.
So what did you include in the exhibition?
In the exhibition, maybe I can show my slides. I'm not sure if I I will show everything, but these are some maybe photographs, because the exhibition was mostly a kind of archival. We did archival research. We made, unfortunately, we couldn't make site visit at that time. Before we did, but that time it was a bit too chaotic, so we couldn't go there. But we barely made conceptual analysis. Not conceptual, but we try to understand the site and the region and, of course, this current history, I will say, after the revolution. So it is a kind of research project. So we try to show our findings. These are, I will just quickly talk a bit about them. These are some important figures who fight for whaling law. This whaling law came after the revolution, Islamic Revolution. So maybe I need to say one more comment here. I work with an artist, architect, and lawyer. So I think working with a lawyer was so important, because it is so important to understand how a country or a region can be prepared for such revolutions or for such conflicts. So these are some important figures from histories. We made some interviews. These are arranged interviews that we made with architects, artists, and art practitioners. But we made many like spontaneous talk, I will say. So there are some slogans. Maybe I need to talk a bit about that as well. So these graffitis were very important for us, because we were talking with our friends from Iran, and some of them were there. And we were asking them to send some photographs, because not always, everything is not always being shared on media. So we want to use this. Of course, we had many discussion and very meeting around this, if we want to use this, or if we are allowed to use this. But people who sent photographs and people who we were in kind of collaboration with were very open to share them, because the aim was to raise the awareness of what is going on there. So it was not a big problem. So these graffitis were I think, uncensored way to share the scale of violence in a country, because you cannot stop this. As you can see, some people probably try to paint over the graffitis to silence it, but again, there is another layer of doing it. So there were some video works there. Videos were mostly informative. So we also, of course, this whole process was a kind of research. We tried to analyze it. In the group, we had artists, lawyers, and architects, but the number of architects were a bit much. And we were trying to understand what is going on there. And of course, our final aim to try to understand what is going on in public spaces. So we want to work in urban scale. All the research were bringing us to here. And of course, this is just the first step of our research, and we try to understand after analyzing what is going on there, and after interviews, spontaneous talks, and photographs, and etc. So we try to understand the situation in urban scale. Because when you try to understand a country, of course, it may not be so easy, but when you go into details, it starts to become a kind of reality, I will say, because from outside, you cannot understand the whole process if you are not very in connection with the locals, or with the, I don't know, somehow in connection. So we try to understand what is going on in the country. Of course, we had many we need to make very long research and hours of interviews to understand the number of demonstration in the country. So this is a kind of current map. Until August 2024, we try to show the density of the protest, and we try to analyze it in this four city. Then we want to, in the second part, in our second phase, we want to understand what is going on in street level. So I think this whole research were helping us to understand the city. I think it is important to bring people's stories as well, but I also think that it is very important to understand the surrounding of people who are living in the city, because the way we live is shaping the way we are. Yeah.
So the exhibition included like this architectural research, the graffiti, but also found footage from demonstrations or...
Yes, and also some other artworks as well, but maybe I can show...
Because I keep thinking about the ethical dimensions of this, and I wanted to ask you, how did you approach the representation of victims who may have not wished to become an exhibition in New York?
I think this is very important thing to discuss, because while we are talking about curating and doing architecture in conflict-affected zones, it is very important to understand what we are doing, and of course also it is very important to understand until where we are allowed to do this research, and if this will be turning into a kind of fetish object, or a kind of if we are turning them into an exotic object again. Yes. And also there is this...
I told you that I think that maybe choosing to change the color of the graffiti from black to red is like this, maybe a step of fetishism.
Yes, maybe, as you say, it may turn it into a fetish.
Yeah.
But I think, of course, a great number of the graffitis were in black, but some of them were in red, and some of them were in blue. So we were like having this discussion. Yeah. I think it will be better if we choose another color, but we want to show it like that, because also we really don't want to turn this exhibition into in the level of fetish, but also we want to raise the awareness of what is going on there. So I think it was very tricky to choose how we want to present it, but I think after long discussion and everything, so we wanted to do it like that. And also we were talking with these locals as well, but most of them were our friends. So yeah. I may not say that these people are representing whole country or whole city, but
and which kind of responses did you receive from the local audience?
Actually, they were very supportive, because we were not thinking that we will make an exhibition, but when we make an exhibition, we were thinking this as an opportunity to share what is going on in Iran with the world. And I guess in making an exhibition in New York City, you can reach to people coming from other countries. So I think it was important at that sense. And since they were also trying to, while we were preparing this exhibition, we were asking them if they want to share their photographs, their recordings that they just secretly took, and etc. They were very open, so we know that they are happy about this. Not happy, but they are supportive, I will say. And also, I think it is very important that we kind of raise awareness while doing this exhibition. One thing happened which I was not expecting at all, that after this exhibition, we were able to raise a small amount of fund to support institution, non-profit and non-profit institution who are supporting supporting people against this violence, or victims, I may say,
Yeah.
or families or victims. So I think this was a really good thing. I was not expecting that. I don't know if it is enough or not, but at least we did something. And I believe making an exhibition is a kind of, is a way to reach people, even if they are not related to art, architecture, or curating. So it is a way to talk to people, talk all different levels of society. So in that sense, I think it is important. And one other small note from exhibition, from my experiences, there were many people coming from other countries, also from Iran. And I was thinking that, I was not expecting that, but also people were sharing their personal stories, like stories from their grandmothers or their, I don't know, from their mothers. So they were telling and sharing their stories. So I think it was growing the exhibition, like the exhibition was already growing. And we were not, we were thinking, of course, that we will follow, we will work on the exhibition, work on the research even after the exhibition. But it was already.
What is the next step for this research?
Next step will be that we already start working in urban scale. So we choose 4 cities. I don't know if this is enough or not, but we will focus on 4 cities. And we want to go into the street level, try to understand what is going on in street, because of course during our research we realized that, but it was quite obvious that women were evacuated from public spaces and they are starting to fading away. And we were thinking that if we can go Iran, try to make kind of site analysis and try to understand the situation in street level, it will help us understand how patriarchal public spaces will look like, or public space look like already. So we are thinking that probably there will be 2 more phases, but we are still, of course, talking about this. In the second phase, we will do this research in street level, try to understand what is going on there. And in the third phase, we want to understand how we can think about alternative possible features. Of course, this will be speculative. We will work on speculative feature scenarios probably, but I think it will be still a nice gesture to understand what is going on, what was going on, what is going on right now, and what will be in the near future, what we are facing, because I don't think that this is the problem of Iran. And I think that in Iran, we are seeing a kind of a part of violence, but in other parts of worlds, we are facing different forms of violences and oppression, and etc. So I believe that making such research and raising this kind of awareness is important to talk about other forms of violence as well.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you if there is a tool that we can practice at home, or how can we bring this knowledge of site analysis into our daily realities when we walk in the streets, like which kind of knowledge we need to pay attention to?
For this question, I was thinking a lot actually, because for me as an architect, it is so hard to give advice. But I was thinking what I was doing with artists, lawyers, and other people coming from other fields. So I may suggest that maybe sometimes everything is so fast and we are not understanding what is going on in our daily life, in the world, and so on. So maybe one good thing will be that we try to understand what is going on in the meantime, and try to focus on ephemeralities of the daily life, to understand what is going on, because the one very important thing for me while I'm practicing both in architecture and curating is focusing on details. And I will say focusing on details. And of course, the other thing will be related to this, that I suggest you to, while you are walking, act like a flaneur or flaneuse to understand what is going on there. And I believe that while you are working and trying to understand what is going on around you, the first thing that you catch will be the thing that you are looking for. I think. This is my take on.
Can you say something about your motivation for this project? Where does it come from?
Especially for this one, or in general? I may talk in general because this is just a part of my practice. So my motivation is probably, hopefully, for a change. I'm doing something for a possible change, but my main motivation is to raise awareness, because sometimes, especially coming from Turkey to New York, I realize that many people even doesn't know what is going on in other parts of the world. It is not just about Turkey, Iran, or something like that, but they don't know what is going on in different parts of the world. I think it is important to continue such research, to raise awareness and bring this kind of research to all different layers of levels of society. Because I believe it is not only about a group of people, but if we come all together, then I think there is a hope for change, or maybe a possibility for healing, I may say.
So maybe, one of your tools or motivation is to bring people together. I feel like that's also something that we do. Just the fact that we sit together, or we sat together in the last month to think about our situations, our regions.
Mm-hmm. I think, yes, it is true actually, because our conversation also started very spontaneously. We just met each other and we start talking about our interests, and we just realized that, okay, we have many stuff in common, and it just turned into a talk. So I think this is a great way of starting maybe a research, or I don't know, a good motivation.
Do we have any questions from you, from the audience?
After a really long we have many other slides as well, but I think time issue, so we cannot show everything. Yeah, I can show a bit. Yeah, we can stay here, I guess. I was thinking there are more photographs, but...
Gülistan, do you have any final notes? Final thoughts?
I think I said most of the stuff, and I think the last thing that you said is very important, to come together, talk, and try to do something. And I think also it refers to our title as well, Building Solidarity, Friendship, Trust, and one more thing I don't remember. I think these are very important, because if we are working on such a challenging era and such challenging region, it is important to understand each other before start to do something. Yeah. So this will be my final notes, I guess.
Yeah, I think that for me the final note is that I still have more questions than answers, and I don't really trust people that say they have the answers these days on how to deal with what is going on. So for me, these opportunities to just stay with the questions are valuable. And yeah, I appreciate all the time that we spent together in the past 2 months to just stay together with the tough questions of working with conflict, working with violence, working with other regions that we want to do something about them, but we don't want to do this like disrespectfully or in a way that somehow contributes to the violence. And thank you for being honest and brave, bringing this.
Thank you for asking this challenging question. Each of them was very important, I guess, to understand and to understand how hard it is to work on such region and era. So I think thank you. I will say it was maybe a good time to